Hey, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Vida Baseball Live. I'm Julie Alexandria here in San Diego with Jennifer Mercedes in New Jersey and Ozzie Guillen Jr. in Chicago. Happy Monday, everybody. 2 weeks down, 7 weeks of baseball to go, and so much has happened over the weekend. So much has happened since we last saw each other. I know we've been texting, but let's get right into it because we have a lot to get to today. Let's talk about the big altercation, kerfuffle, issue, fight that everybody is talking about today that went down yesterday at the Oakland Coliseum with the Oakland A's against the Houston Astros. Let's just talk about, first of all, if you're a fan of the AL West, Oakland on a 9-game winning streak. What a roll. 9 games. And then you have the Houston Astros who are on a 5-game skid. It's almost like 2020 has descended and permeated every aspect of baseball that it could. This is like on its head. Usually it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
What struck you about
this?
This
is the most 2020 thing that you will see. I mean, there's so many 2020 things that happened. I mean, over the weekend, Johnny Cueto's no being broken up by,
Hunter Pence dropping the ball.
Yeah, dropping the ball. I mean, coach instigating a fight. It's all 2020.
You know what? I think that from an Oakland Athletics standpoint, they were affected by the rules changes that came from the Astros cheating. Again, no video. Mm-hmm. They're a team heavily on analytics. They compete. They've also felt cheated because at times they thought that they were a better team. Why are the Astros dominating so much? They've came out hot. The Oakland Athletics are still the Oakland Athletics, still their formula and Billy Beans. We don't know what they do, but whatever team they put out there, they seem to compete and win. So it works for them. And then the Astros are struggling. And Astros hit six A's. Okay. And I know that they probably weren't intentional, but when you're in the game of baseball and 6 guys get hit, one guy getting hit 3 times that happened to play with the Houston Astros in the organization, you're going to get testy. And he said, I don't think that he just was saying he was giving his peace of mind to the pitcher. Okay.
Right.
Because if he was mad enough to fight, he would have just gone and charged them. I don't think Laureano, we're going to doubt his fighting skills. Everyone knows what he does off the field. And
this is one of the quietest guys, by the way.
He's allegedly very dangerous with his hands off the field. He practices MMA, so that's that's the rumor going on there. But I think that his exchange was very talking. I don't know what he was saying, maybe something with the 2-seam. He gets to first base, and the Astros start instigating him. Okay, when you are a coach, and Alex Cintron is my friend outside of baseball, we're very good friends. I know him very well. And I would tell him this, when you're a coach, you could probably chirp and say something. Mm-hmm. Once the player takes a look at you, you can either start continuing. At that point, you need to become the parent in the room.
Right.
And his calling him to come and charge at him is a big no-no because you are the parent in the room. You are there to make sure that players don't fight, that players are following the rules, especially now with the COVID situation. This is pre-COVID. He shouldn't have done this. I want people to realize that this is not Alex Cintron's getting in trouble because we're in COVID. No, mm-hmm. Alex Cintron's getting in trouble because he is a coach and you're instigating a player on the field when that's not your job. So things got testy. Alex, unfortunately, did not continue in fighting. The Astros team stepped in. And again, I think cooler heads. Separated. I don't think that everyone realized that they were during COVID, and I like how the players reacted. They basically took everyone off right away. It could have been way worse. This could have gone for way longer, but I think that cooler heads prevailed and said, "Hey, come on, we can't be doing this right now."
I also just don't think that he thought that Laureano was going to actually go at him. I think that was probably his mindset at that moment. But like you said, Ozzie, I mean, pre-COVID, during COVID, after COVID, that's something that is unacceptable from somebody who's supposed to be an authority figure on this team, from a team. And I mean, Dusty Baker had just been ejected, I believe.
Ejected. He was ejected.
Yeah,
and he was ejected.
Prior to this.
That right there, that is the most glaring part of all of this. Because how dare he, when your manager gets ejected and then you act out like this? That to me is a disservice to Dusty Baker. You don't do that to Dusty.
Yeah.
That right there was major insubordination. And to me, that gave such an glaring insight into what is happening in Houston right now. Right?
Especially with the history. If I was a general manager right now, okay, and I was the owner, I would have major issues with this because allegedly the issue with the cheating happened because someone did not have control of people in their staff. Okay? And if I'm Dusty, I'm like, I just got kicked out of a game and you're literally going to instigate somebody of a player. Meaning,
meme that's been trending?
Meaning I'm not in charge. Meaning I'm not, like right now, Dusty can't have players test positive for COVID because they were out eating and doing things. Why? That means he's losing control of so that clubhouse, there's an extra pressure on like, we're going to do things Dusty's way. Mm-hmm. By the way, a rule out there, if you ever invite anybody with a hand gesture, you better hope that they might take it serious and charge at you. That's the part that I was super shocked because I think anybody, even the most calm of all players, because now you're testing him out. Major League Baseball cannot come down on Laureano and make him the example. They cannot do that because everyone in baseball is watching them. The Astros were not punished, so that makes this situation even worse. He is a player who's currently actively playing on a team that is on a playoff race. You just gave a guy an 8-game suspension for not hitting someone. The Astros just hit 6 people. So this is all has to fall on the Astros. Nothing can fall. Maybe a 1-game suspension, like if it would have been if you would have charged the dugout on a non-COVID situation. But Laureano cannot be made an example. Major League Baseball right now has a huge opportunity to either be on the good side of not only the baseball players in the baseball world, or just keep digging their hole. Just keep digging.
Yeah, this is a really big hole to come out of. This whole season has not been very positive to them. And when I first saw this, I immediately imagined, the Twitterverse and social media. And what came into my mind, and Julie, I don't know if you've seen that video that's trending and that's gone viral of the lady who was arrested and you were about to lose your job. Yeah, you were about to lose your job. That's what came into my mind when I saw that about Alex Cintron, because I was just like, it was like, really? You're a coach here and you're inciting this player to come and fight you? I mean, what did you expect? Like, it's kind of mind-boggling, but it is 2020. And Ozzy, I agree with you. I think Major League Baseball cannot make an example of Laureano because this was something that was instigated by somebody who's supposed to be an authority figure, somebody who was also connected to that whole investigation with the cheating scandal out in Houston. So if you want to make an example of somebody and at least get in some good graces with the rest of Major League Baseball as far as discipline being handed down to the Houston Astros team, here's the way.
He needs to save his job. So if I'm him, I'm asking the Astros to say, hey, I'll take a 10-game suspension. Don't fire me. I'm a hitting coach. Mm-hmm. It won't affect the team. And here's the part that no one's talking about, okay? You're the hitting coach and all your top players are hitting under 200.
I'm sorry, but I don't think he needs to say. I think he's going to try to save his job, and I don't want anybody.
I just think it's a wrong time and place for him to do this. I think that even if he had not done this fighting thing, I think the Astros, from a baseball standpoint, are like, why are guys hitting 200, under 200? Do we need to change philosophy? Do we need to get in? Again, remember, Dusty came in and they brought in Dusty, but they kept a lot of the old staff.
Right.
Maybe they think, maybe we need to do a little bit more than just Dusty. So again, these are all things that were going to happen in the baseball world.
Dusty should be able to bring in his own guys, just like every other major league manager. Correct. You know how that works.
Correct. This is not helping the old coaches and the old regime. Again, I don't want anybody's job to be taken, but this is a perfect moment for Dusty saying, look, no one's listening to me. I need to bring in my own guys. So it's got layers and layers and layers of depth, which this was the wrong time for them to do this. And again, it shows more panic on the Astros side. Before this week, I kept saying the Astros they're not playing with pressure. They're not panicking. It's just injuries. It's just this. After this weekend, after the Dusty getting kicked out, after the bench clearing brawl, which shouldn't have been a bench clearing brawl, I think that they're pressuring. Altuve broke a bat after, it's just, I think it's getting to them a little bit, even with no fans in the stands.
Yeah, I was looking at their record. I mean, they were swept by Oakland. They dropped the last 2 games in a 3-game set against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are, by all accounts, in the basement. I mean, they are the worst team in the NL West, and that was very surprising. Laureano hit 3 times by pitches in that series, twice in that game. Here's my question. You talk about, I know I mentioned it being a glaring insight into the Houston Astros clubhouse. When you are on a roll, you guys know when a team is on a roll, you win 9 in a row. That is impressive. I don't care how many games you're playing in the season, 9 games in a row, and you're going to let that get to you? I was surprised.
You know what? I think that they've have a chip on their shoulder. And it's like, I think you've hit me 6 times, okay? In old school baseball is always going to rule. You're putting a whooping on them, and you hit me 6 times in the series. You hit me 3 times.
Yeah,
that's like when you're like, okay, what's going on? Like, really, 3 times for me, and you hit us 6 times. And I think that the calling him to fight, I think if as a base in the baseball world, had he not gone after him, everyone says, okay, how tough is Oakland? They hit him 6 times. Yeah, they have 9 games won, but you've hit them 6 times, no retaliation. So I don't think it was so much of like they got under their skins. It's like at one point you got to say, okay, what are you doing? So I understand their standpoint. I understand, again, you get the moment. I know people talk about COVID, but I hope that he doesn't get suspended in a ridiculous suspension because he was just acting to what they were doing to him. Because at no moment does he get hit and he thinks he's going to charge. When Maldonado comes to him as a catcher, he says, you can see in the John Boy video, and you can see it, break it down for yourself. He tells Maldonado in Spanish, I'm not fighting. Like, I just want to say something to him. And again, is he being a little bit sarcastic of asking him, like, are you getting in front of the ball? Like, he's basically telling him in the baseball world, it looks like you're hitting me. Like, you're not throwing your curveball.
Right. He was almost giving him a pitching.
Well, you're saying that if you're going to hit me. So for the people to break down, if you're going to hit me, if you're throwing a breaking ball, you usually want to finish on top. He's saying that ball was not, your ball was all the way out here. So I don't know if you're like slow in pitching and you're trying to hit me with a breaking ball, but you're not really trying to get that pitch over for a strike. So what is it? Like, are you trying to hit me with a breaking ball, or you just don't know like where your angle is? So he was just being, I don't know if Ronaldo's being a smart aleck and being like, what is it, bro? And kind of get something from the pitcher and seeing a reaction from him. But he was like, at no point I think that he was thinking I'm going to charge. He was just like, what the hell? Like, I just got.
At the end of the day, Cintron was the one who was in the wrong.
And I know Cintron wasn't the only one chirping.
I think it was his fault. And
I think at the end of the day, I don't think Cintron's the only one chirping. Go to first base because I know how dugouts are. I think at some point, because of the Spanish and whatnot, I think Laureano says like, who's saying it? And he looks at Cintron, and I think Cintron stepped up and said, I'm the one that's saying it, and he instigates him because. You can talk back and players can look. It happens in other times. You look at the dugout, but you don't tell the guy come over here and, especially not a coach. If you're a player, I've seen players, especially starting pitchers say, I'm going to get to first base if you really want to get on base that bad. But as a coach, you have to say, hey, even to your players, hey, let it go. Let's go.
Well, certainly not a good look for the Houston Astros.
No, not a good look. Astros is just another level of shame.
Well, and I hope that he apologized to Dusty Baker. Honestly, I
hope
really
he does
do.
Because you're putting Dusty in an awkward situation because you're putting Dusty in a situation that he's got to answer questions after the game. And again, for the Astros, if things are not even related to the Astros cheating Astros, it's always going to go back to that. Everything that happens.
And I mean, Julian, and you guys have already touched on it, but I'm sorry, I wouldn't ever want people to lose their jobs, right? But this is a fireable offense. And if there were ever a moment to, number one, make a statement, but also allow Dusty to bring in his own guys, people who he would feel comfortable with. We all said they should have started with a clean slate from the beginning, the Houston Astros, having gone through that investigation that they went through. But this is a fireable offense. And if he is fired, wouldn't be surprised. It's not like, oh, they're just, trying to find a scapegoat. This is something that somebody as an authority figure should not be doing, period. Like, that's just it.
And we haven't asked what the players are thinking. The players, that's the other part. You got Altuve having a really bad weekend.
I was just going to say what they're thinking is playing out on the field.
Yo, what are you doing? Because if it's another teammate, you're like, again, the dynamics of a clubhouse these guys are like, we don't want more things to happen. Like now we have to deal with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're already pumped up. They just whooped us 3 days, and now we're fighting them.
Right. They don't need
So
the
I think
distraction.
from the player standpoint, I think maybe some guys are like, we want this to go away. That's seems to be the energy for some players. Like they just wanted to go away, which is not going to happen. So bringing extra attention to you, I think as a player, sometimes you're like, really, do we really need this? So I want to see what the players' dynamics on that. And I'm sure they'll talk about it within their own clubhouse of what's going to happen and where do we go from this? Because again, they might say, no, we support it. But again, if it's supported, I think guys would have been way more aggressive on the fighting. I didn't see any Astros going after Laureano, saying, like protecting their guys. And it was just more of like, okay, let's separate them. Let's move this. There wasn't no, trying to get him for doing that.
Well, it has certainly gotten in the head of Jose Altuve. I mean, when you look at his play on the field, he's batting under 200. He went 0 for 4 yesterday and committed 3 errors in one game. He is obviously going through something. I mean, talk about baseball being a mental sport. Something's not right. What do you think is going on with him?
Well,
I think piling up.
I think all of the guys have put certain amount of pressure on themselves from the beginning, right? I think during spring training, certain guys were being really cocky, but I think that that's just a defense mechanism when you know that you're wrong in certain situations. And I think that for a long period of time during that spring training and during when that news first broke out, a lot of people were coming to Altuve's defense, right? No, Altuve never cheated. Altuve was like one guy who was totally against this. So I think that being put on top of everything else and just the way that this year has been, right? It's easy to feel some type of pressure, to put that type of pressure on yourself. Like I have to show people that I'm really good without all of these other things, without cheating. And I am really, really good. And when you put that type of pressure on yourself, the total opposite happens to most people. And I mean, obviously we're assuming we're not psychologists and we're not trained professionals in that field, but it's just from a human perspective, it does seem like there's something going on there with a lot of these guys. The only one batting over 300, I believe, is Carlos Correa. So
Correa's finally hitting.
Yeah, when you have a team who's this good, that is this good. Like even cheating aside, that this is a really, really good team and it's a group of really talented players. So to see them on the field struggling the way that they're struggling, it does lead me to believe that one, this is them putting themselves a lot of pressure on themselves, and two, it's a shortened season. You usually get during spring training a certain amount of at-bats prior to starting the regular season. They only had 2 weeks. So it was a limited number of bats before they actually could get ready. I think a lot of things a lot of things are happening at the same time right now.
I think that there's a combination of things. I think they come into spring training, everyone thinks that you can't hit without the buzzer or the camera or whatever it is that they were using.
The trash can.
The trash can. So I think that as a player, you're like, I have to prove to them that I am not a cheater and I can hit. You hit 350, you're like, well, I'll hit with anything, okay? So you might go to the plate and you might force yourself to do a little bit better. That's one way to do it, and it might work for you. It might not. Shortened season, you're also playing the same opponents, okay? When you look at the numbers of the Astros versus the Athletics, they've always pitched them really, really well. So you're not getting a break now to go face other teams in other divisions where if we've seen the players struggling, it's the same guys because it's the same guys playing against the same team, which is why I think Fernando Tatis might win the MVP because they can't pitch him in that division. He's going to destroy it. They can't figure him out. So for Altuve and these guys, Athletics is not a really good team to play against them in that division. That division pitches them really well. The second part of them not pitching well is the part that I'm concerned about Altuve is now he's grabbed his bat and taking it to the defensive game, meaning there was only one play there that I don't think it was his fault. The throw from the catcher, it's a hard throw. That's the only one that I'm like, I would discard out. But the ground ball on the shift to him to throw to first base, there's no way that a right mind Altuve makes that throw. Why? The guy's already at first base. As you see him release the ball, the Athletic player's already rounding first. You eat that ball. Altuve in his right mind says, there's no play. They hit that ball. I'm not in a position to throw it. The ground ball, again, a hard play, but basically not positioned the right way. It's a mental mistake. Got it to it the wrong way. Then the pop-up. The pop-up's it's his ball. Okay, and again, Oakland's
and we're
not an
seeing it
easy
on the
stadium.
video as you're narrating it.
Yeah,
I mean,
narrating. So all these
it's
plays,
egregious. Like these plays are just so cringy.
He's a very good mental player that he'll eat those plays. He'll grab it and say, "I don't have a play." So that's where I'm worried about him defensively. Of like, okay, now you're grabbing your at bats and you're bringing him onto the field. That's not good. I think that Dusty might have to give him a couple days off. Reassess himself, find himself, and say, hey, don't grab your at bats and bring it there for whatever reason. It might be COVID. It might be, that not many at bats. It might be the pitching. But I think that a guy that's usually
I would say
hitter,
give him a break. Give him a day off.
No, day off. He needs a day off because again, when you're as good as Altuve, okay, and meaning Altuve is a guy that's 300 and above. This is a guy that if he hits 290, it's like, oh, I'm not doing well. Well, 290 would be amazing for him right now. He's like hitting 100. And I think it's catching up to him. 177. I think it's catching up to him. The at bats, it's not happening. So I think right now it's when Dusty needs to come in and use that, be Dusty and say, hey, take a couple of days off. Just maybe his at bats not going to pick up, but maybe we'll still see better defense because it was just a really hard weekend for him, even with the glove. And Altuve is a Gold Glover, and you're seeing plays that are happening. Like you're seeing the Astros pressure themselves on things they usually do very well and just be very normal on it. And it's not working for them because even the shifts like that, those two balls that were hit 2 years ago, they're perfectly positioned. Oakland hit those balls completely out of the shift. So something's not working in their dynamics.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on, Sean Doolittle, relief pitcher for the Washington Nationals, who is normally very outspoken, using social media and his platform to speak out against everything from the lack of energy in the last Star Wars film to social justice. And he has recently decided to quit the social media platform, Twitter, because the trolls were getting to him. He also has made no secret of the fact that he feels very uncomfortable playing during the time of COVID. He is yet to opt out of the game, but he feels that the season is kind of a wash and was really sick and tired of being attacked on social media. So this is the other side of seeing players coming out and being more vocal. Personally, he's one of my favorite players, and truly saddened to see people being just so mean and just so awful to him on Twitter because he wasn't performing as well as they expected him to.
I'm upset because he is a world champion. That's why I'm upset. Sean Doolittle has a ring. Everyone in Washington has a ring because of Sean Doolittle. And you let political views and agendas, you think that he's not trying because of the COVID situation. You don't know his financial situation. He might have to work. You don't know that. So I think that he's, as a professional, I think that he's not trying to blow these games. It's just he's having a hard time. You just came from winning, though. This is going to happen. This happens to every bullpen, to every team after they win. It's hard for him. It might be a combination of a lot of things, but it's just unfortunate because you're attacking a player that's on your team. This wasn't Yankee fans attacking a Doolittle. This wasn't Dodgers. This was his own fan base. So I think as a fan base, I think that the Nationals could this year go 0-60 and you don't attack them. They're the champs. They're the champs. And they're playing in a really hard division. And those guys threw a lot of innings. And when you look at it from a baseball world, those guys are taxed. Okay. And the bullpen, even before COVID, it was something that was, up in the air. Like how much longer can these guys go the way that they pitched last year? They didn't add any new arms. And again, they're trying to compete. And Dave Martinez has been using Sean because, and using the bullpen because he wants to stay in it. And he stayed away from younger pitchers, but he might have to go to younger pitchers and say, you know what, let's see what happens because they are pressuring and it's a hard division. And it's really sad to see Sean that he's getting attacked by his own fan base because he's always been very vocal to them. He's always been very open to them. And he's been someone that we know where he stands. So to let political views kind of change your mind on a player, on his performance on the field, relievers struggle, man. That's just the name of the game. And I think that he's been trying. And he said it, though. You know what, Jennifer? I think that for him you know what makes me sad? There's pitchers that struggle and their ego's so big that they say, I'm fine. It's just not working out. I can't find the zone. Mechanics. And he's said, I feel really, really bad that I am not performing to the ability that I need to because I'm costing the team wins. So this guy is opening himself to the media saying, I don't know what's wrong. I can't get an out. And I'm sorry. And I'm trying to figure it out. For a player to do that it shows a level of vulnerability that you're really confident with yourself. You're really confident in your teammates, not saying, okay, well, Sean just lost it because in a clubhouse where egos and testosterone are so big, you never want to show that you're defeated. And he said, I can't figure it out. And again, talking about a mental break, again, that happens to relievers. Sometimes relievers come out. Again, we're playing the same division. So you have to go back and look at, do they have something on Sean? It's really hard to pitch night after night, every other week to the same team. Because if they have you figured out, it's hard. But if they don't have you figured out, you're going to dominate. So we're seeing those things, the effect, how the schedule's affecting these guys. You know, it's like last year, maybe you could have asked Sean and say, who are the teams that you least like to face? And you're like, my division. Why? They see me every other week. So now to double that, I think it makes it hard for him. But it's unfortunate for fans, and I hope he gets to get back on there. And I love the support the fans were showing him and his wife that are with them as Nationals fans. And fans in Washington should remember that this guy's going to be there for a long time, meaning usually your championship teams are you're attached to them forever. So be nice to him, because you don't want this guy in 4 years saying, I don't want to come visit, the Nationals because the way the fans treated me. That's never a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very surprised. I know that Nationals fan base, and they have always been incredibly accepting, incredibly.
It's called spoiled. It's called they won one and they want to win all of them. It's called.
I disagree. I think this is much more political.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
I was just going to say that too. I think it's more
political.
along the lines of politicizing everything,
so
and because he's been so vocal and so open, that has opened the doors for the trolls.
Jennifer, but if he would have quit, this is a part where this is why social media makes me mad. If they quit, it's because they quit. If Sean Doolittle opts out in spring training, okay, with already a taxed bullpen, a weak bullpen, I'll say it was a weak bullpen, okay? Those guys pitched their hearts out in the series, but that was always their asterisk. Like, how good is their bullpen going to be? If Sean Doolittle opts out, every single Nationals fan would have said, you opted out in a chance to repeat for a World Series. You're giving up on us. That's the reality. So it's like, if he quits because he thinks he's scared of COVID, people are going to get on him. So he decides to play, not to leave his teammates up in the air without a reliever. But now they're hating on him because they're saying that he's not playing the right way because of his views on COVID and whatnot. So I feel bad for him.
For people to even think that he's doing it on purpose shows
That's
the
what
ignorance
I mean.
within the comments. And I mean, and actually, I applaud him for taking a break from social media, because sometimes you need a break from social media. It's only human to read the comments, and as much as you want to say, oh, it doesn't bother me, it does. You're human, and certain things can get into your head, and you don't want that type of negativity anyways, that type of energy around you. So good for you. Take the break, come back to social media, because he is a voice that is much needed.
He's funny.
In
He's great for baseball.
And he's great. He's awesome for baseball, and he's awesome for social media. So take the break and come back with a clear mind.
And people don't realize this. People need to realize players have pressure, depending how good your team is doing, to opt out. I know that for a fact. You're there and you're like, do I opt out? That's why Lorenzo Cain, I admire him. He said, I'm done. You just left your team hanging, no center fielder. That your team's like, he made a decision, he moved on. You might be playing and saying, I want to opt out, but if I opt out and I'm in a 4-year contract with this team, how are my teammates going to view me next year? Like, as the guy who quit on them? So there's a lot of things, like the Dodgers right now. Like Mookie Betts says, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. I'm done for the season. What are Dodgers fans going to say? Dude, we're in the middle of
we just gave you a huge contract. What do you mean you're
huge contract? Where are you going?
Right?
So again, those are things that from a fan base. So I think from a player standpoint, you have to navigate, and it's really hard. Now, I'm glad for him. I hope he takes his break. I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back because he gives baseball a different view on the game, on life, and he brings fans. People follow Doolittle. They don't even like baseball. He's so eccentric. I love him. I think he comes back. I really hope, and I think he's a great guy for the game of baseball, and I really hope that he gets it together.
Absolutely. Me too. We wish you all the best, Sean, and to his lovely wife as well. Okay, really fast. We have 2 more topics we want to get to really quick. The Rookie of the Year award. It's the only award in baseball you can only win once. That's what makes it so special. But now, because it's 2020 and anything can literally happen and the world is topsy-turvy, they're saying because of the shortened season, it is possible, maybe probable, possibly that the person who is picked as the winner of the Rookie of the Year award this year in 2020 could possibly be eligible again to win it in 2021. This is crazy. So to qualify as a rookie next year, a player would have to avoid any of these three distinctions. I'm just going to call them out real quick so you get an idea. Log 45 days or more on a big league roster before September 1st, pitch 50 innings or more, or roll up 130 at-bats or more. So when you take into account the shortened season and the fact that guys are not going to be pitching 50 innings or more, most probably, they could be eligible. So I don't know. Could they make history? Could the same guy win twice?
Or the other guy gets a new chance. I'm liking it if I'm in the American League and I have to compete against Luis Robert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's guys I think they're going to get a second look. I also think we're going to see a lot of young talent come up and maybe have 50 at-bats that probably were not going to make the big league team next year because they were a single A guy. Mm-hmm. If they perform well, they'll definitely be in the big league team next year. So I think I think if anyone was the one benefiting from this whole COVID situation, it's players that are way younger because they're able to showcase their skills when maybe teams were 3-4 years away from letting you do that. Now you coming up to the big leagues, you might have the ability to do that. So I think there is. I don't think Luis Robert can win it twice because I think he'll definitely surpass all those stats. But I think that we will see guys that are going to have numbers to compete. They just won't be good enough numbers, so they'll be able to have another chance to compete for a second go round.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Ozzy, I hadn't even thought about that, but I think that that's a great point. There's definitely going to be a lot of guys that you know what, maybe this year they don't get it, but next year you're going to be like, huh? Comparing last year and this year, you might get it. And like we said, nobody's benefiting more from the season like the guys in the minors. They're also benefiting in the sense that you're getting that, big league minimum payment as well, which can then, I think it benefits them in a lot of ways. So good for them.
Absolutely. And lastly, a little more salacious activity. Zach Plesac, pitcher for the Cleveland Indians, was sent home after on a road trip to Chicago. Allegedly, he went out and broke curfew protocol, whatever you want to call it. He went out during COVID and was allegedly partying in a club with some friends and was then reported by MLB security that he went out without permission. He has been now sent back home to Cleveland to quarantine for 72 hours, be tested regularly. At that rate, he will not miss a start if those tests come out consecutively negative for COVID-19. Hopefully they do, and he doesn't infect any of his teammates. But, is it just a question of a young guy being a young guy and not listening to the rules, or is there something bigger at play here?
I think that guys were testing Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball has given the answer. Major League Baseball is watching, guys. They're not going to let what happened in Miami happen again. And they just sent a sign to everybody on the Cleveland Indians team, and that's why he's not missing a start. But if he was a position player, he would be. They're hoping that he doesn't miss a start, which you hope. But he's sending home. He's embarrassed for sure. He had to apologize to his teammates. And it's a sign of saying, hey, we're not going to let people go out. And he took a chance. And now everybody knows that Major League Baseball is watching. They're watching you. There is security. They know where you're going. I know way too much information about this case because I just know way too much information about this case. But it was good. You know what? You have to respect it. And I think players need to realize that you need to follow the protocol. This is not last year. This might be 2021. This is not the time for you to be able to go out there and have a meal with your friends or grab a bite with a buddy or go hit a bar and sit there. Even if you're wearing your mask and you're being safe. The other part is perception. If let's say, even if he doesn't get anybody infected, okay? And let's say the Cleveland Indians have 5 positive tests next testing round, and they have nothing to do with Plesac. Guess who's going to get blamed for this?
Good
Plesac.
point.
He's going to get blamed for this. And not only are you affecting your team, who's also in a pennant race, but you're affecting the other team that you're playing against. And that's the part that's really hard. We have the Cardinals right now. We don't even know they're going to get 40 games in. And Major League Baseball has said it. We're going to get the games in. If you get 30, you get 30. If you get 60, you get 60. So this might affect you teams even getting in the playoffs because you might be playing great baseball, but hey, sorry, you didn't play enough games. So I think that you're affecting more than just your team. And that's why Major League Baseball and guys need to understand you're affecting the next opponent and the next opponent and the next opponent, and injuries and arms. And, with Plesac coming out, somebody has to be called up. And now, do we have enough arms? It's a domino effect that Major League Baseball says, you know what, we cannot let what happened in Miami happen again, because had they punished guys right off the bat, we would have had a different view on it. And if a player does get somebody else sick and we do find out that he is going out, it will come out, because it's the world that we live in today. And you know what? I don't feel bad. I like the fact that he apologized and he's got to come back and hopefully doesn't do it again. And hopefully everybody gets the big memo of Major League Baseball is watching you.
Everybody's watching.
Everybody has a camera on that phone. You better watch out. All right. Well, thank you, Ozzy, for laying down the law. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back on Wednesday with much more La Vida Baseball Live. That's going to do it for us. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.